There comes a moment in every life, a breaking point. A moment when your hands are trembling, your mind is exhausted, and your heart whispers, "I can't anymore." My friend, is where the true power of faith begins. Because when you reach the end of yourself, you stand at the beginning of God. There are burdens that your shoulders were never meant to carry. There are storms that your strength cannot silence. And there are doors that will never open with your human effort alone. You were never meant to do everything on your own. That's why God exists in your life. When you have done all you can and nothing moves, that's not the end. That's the moment to step back and say, "God, I give it to you now." When you stop wrestling with what you cannot control, you allow God to move in ways you could never imagine. Many people fail not because they lack effort, but because they don't know when to release what's beyond their reach. You pray, you plan, you fight. But when the door still doesn't open, when the answer still doesn't come, it's not a sign of your failure. It's a sign that it now belongs to God. Faith doesn't mean doing nothing. Faith means doing what you can and then resting, knowing that what you cannot do, God will handle in His time, in His way, and for your good. You see, life becomes heavy when you carry what's not yours to carry. You were never designed to hold every fear, every worry, every outcome in your hands. Some things belong only in the hands of the one who created time, shaped the stars, and breathed life into you. When you try to control everything, you end up controlling nothing. But when you surrender everything, you find peace in everything. The moment you say, "God, take this, I can't carry it anymore," heaven begins to move. Many of you have prayed and yet still carry the worry. You say you trust God, yet you stay awake at night rehearsing the problem. You claim to believe in divine power, but your heart is still restless. Listen carefully. Faith is not proven by what you say. It's revealed by what you release. When you truly believe that God can handle what you can't, you don't just talk about trust, you live it. You let go of your grip and allow His hand to take over. You stop trying to fix people, to change hearts, to force outcomes. You stop fighting the wind and instead raise your sail to let God's breath carry you forward. The truth is, sometimes God waits until you let go before He steps in. Because as long as you are still trying to be the solution, He will let you. But when you finally say, "God, I surrender," the entire atmosphere around you begins to shift. Suddenly, what looked impossible starts aligning. What looked lost starts returning. What looked dead begins to breathe again. When you give what you can't handle to God, you are not losing control. You are placing it into the hands of perfect control. You may be facing things right now that seem impossible. A situation that's beyond reason, a pain that words can't explain, a door that refuses to open, a person who will not change. You've tried everything, you've cried, you've prayed, and still nothing. My friend, that's not because God has forgotten you. It's because He is preparing something deeper than your request. Sometimes God delays to develop you. Sometimes He waits not because He's denying you, but because He's refining you. And if you keep trying to handle what's meant for Him, you'll block the miracle that's already on its way. When you release your battles into God's hands, peace enters your soul. The things that once terrified you no longer have power over you, because when God holds the situation, He holds the outcome. Your enemies can't touch what God protects. The storm can't destroy what God sustains. The pain can't last longer than God allows. Everything has a divine boundary when it's in His control. That's why the wisest thing you can ever do is stop fighting battles that belong to God. Stop arguing to prove your worth. Stop running after people who left. Stop worrying about what you can't predict. Lift your eyes and say, God, this is yours. Letting God handle what you can't is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's spiritual maturity. It's understanding that the same God who designed the stars knows how to design your life. You don't have to figure everything out. You just have to keep your faith in the one who already has. When you carry everything in your hands, it breaks you. But when you place everything in God's hands, it builds you. Some of the greatest blessings are not found in fighting harder, but in surrendering sooner. Look around you. So many are anxious, exhausted, broken, because they have made themselves their own gods. They believe everything depends on their effort, their control, their timing. But the more they grasp, the more they lose. Peace never lives in control. It lives in surrender. You can pray all you want, but until you release your fear, you'll never experience peace. God cannot fill hands that are already full of worry. Empty them. Let Him take it. Trust that His plan will always be higher, His timing always wiser, and His path always safer than yours. Maybe you've lost something precious, a relationship, an opportunity, a dream. And you wonder why God didn't stop it. Listen carefully. God never removes without a reason. When He takes something from your hand, it's because He's protecting you or preparing you for something greater. You think it's gone, but God is storing something better in a place you cannot see yet. What you can't handle now, He's already handling in the background. While you're worrying, He's working. While you're waiting, He's weaving the details. While you're crying, He's creating a new path for you. When you let God handle what you can't, you learn to breathe again. You stop rushing. You stop comparing. You stop fighting against divine timing. You become still, not because you're passive, but because you know you're protected. You know that what's meant for you cannot be taken from you. You understand that if it's delayed, it's divine. If it's denied, it's direction. God never leaves you with less unless He plans to give you more. There is a peace that enters when you truly say, God, I trust you with what I don't understand. That's the moment anxiety leaves and faith rises. Because faith doesn't mean you understand everything. It means you trust even when you don't. There's a kind of strength that only comes when you've stopped depending on your strength. And when you've cried, prayed, and finally said, enough, God, take it. That's when the heavens open. You must learn to recognize when it's time to let go. When you've tried, prayed, and nothing changes, it's not time to push harder. It's time to surrender deeper. There's power in saying, God, I've done my part, now I rest in yours. The greatest miracles come not when we're struggling, but when we're still. Not when we're panicking, but when we're trusting. You may not see the full picture right now, but God does. He sees beyond your confusion, beyond your timeline, beyond your pain. Every unanswered prayer is not rejection, it's redirection. Every delay is not punishment, it's preparation. Every closed door is not abandonment, it's protection. When you believe this, peace becomes your natural state. You stop asking, why me? And start saying, use me. You stop asking, when will it happen? And start saying, whenever you will. That's what happens when you let God handle what you can't. You begin to live free. There are people who are losing their peace because they're trying to control what was never theirs. They're trying to fix hearts only God can heal. They're trying to force opportunities that only divine timing can open. And in the process, they lose their joy. Let go. Let God handle it. You'll be surprised how light life feels when you finally stop trying to carry what doesn't belong to you. There's a quiet strength that appears when you've surrendered everything. You stop running. You stop forcing. You stop worrying. You wake up knowing that the same God who carried you through yesterday will carry you through today. You don't panic at the sight of storms. You rest because you know the one who commands the winds is still in control. Faith means saying, even if I don't understand, I'll trust. It means believing that every loss, every delay, every heartbreak still has purpose. And though your heart may ache, you can still say, God, I know you're handling what I can't. That sentence alone can transform your entire life. Because once you stop controlling, you start growing. Once you stop worrying, you start healing. Once you stop doubting, you start receiving. There is a power that comes only when a soul has reached the end of itself. It is the moment when you've tried everything, said every prayer, fought every battle, and yet nothing moves. That is when your heart whispers, God, I can't do this anymore. And heaven answers, finally, now I can. The divine cannot intervene in a life that refuses to surrender. As long as your hands are gripping the steering wheel, you will keep driving in circles. But the moment you release it to God, the same road that once felt endless suddenly reveals a destination. You see, surrender is not the language of defeat. It is the doorway to divine victory. When you let God handle what you can't, you are not stepping back in fear. You are stepping aside in faith, allowing His perfect plan to unfold without your interference. You must understand that control is an illusion. The more you try to manage everything, the more anxious you become, because life was never designed to obey your command. Only God governs time. Only God controls outcomes. And only God determines the right season for your blessing. When you insist on doing what only He can do, you carry a weight too heavy for human shoulders. You were not created to bear that load. You were created to trust. The hands that shape the universe are strong enough to hold your future. The one who made the oceans knows how to calm your storm. The same power that keeps the stars in their place knows exactly where to place you. So stop trying to fix everything in your limited understanding. Instead, kneel in quiet faith and whisper, God, I trust you with what I can't handle. There is a sacred silence in surrender. It is not the silence of despair, but the silence of peace. It is the stillness that comes when you stop wrestling with outcomes and start resting in God's authority. Many people confuse movement with progress. They think that by constantly worrying, constantly talking, constantly planning, they are showing faith. But true faith often looks like quiet confidence. It looks like sitting in the middle of uncertainty and saying, even if I don't see it, I know God is working. The calmest person in the storm is the one who knows who controls the wind. When you let God handle what you can't, you stop living as a victim of circumstance and start living as a vessel of purpose. You begin to see that not everything that hurts you is meant to harm you. Some pain is preparation. Some loss is direction. Some delays are divine. You may not see the full picture yet, but God does. Every tear you've cried has been counted. Every prayer you've whispered has been heard. Every struggle you've faced has been seen. You are not invisible to the one who designed your destiny. And though you may not understand the why, one day you will thank Him for not giving you what you thought you needed, because He was protecting you from what you couldn't handle. There are people who keep asking, why does God allow me to go through this? And the answer is simple. Because He is strengthening what He plans to use. Diamonds are not made in comfort, they are made under pressure. Gold is not refined by ease, it is refined by fire. And faith is not built when everything makes sense, it is built when nothing does. God allows pressure not to destroy you, but to prove that you are built for greater things. You think the delay means He has forgotten, but it actually means He's preparing you for something too powerful to handle in your current form. So when life feels like it's falling apart, maybe it's actually falling into place, God's place. When you let God handle what you can't, you also learn the beauty of patience. The waiting room of life is never empty. It is full of souls being tested in trust. Waiting is not punishment. It's part of the process. God is not just preparing the blessing, He's preparing you to receive it. If He gave you what you asked for too soon, it would crush you, not bless you. But when you wait, when you trust, when you rest, you grow strong enough to carry what's coming. Faith means believing that even in silence, God is speaking. Even in the delay, God is directing. Even in the dark, God is designing. Letting God handle what you can't is also about forgiveness. There are wounds that you cannot heal by holding on. There are people who have wronged you so deeply that no words can undo it. You replay the pain, hoping it will somehow make sense. But it never does. Because forgiveness is not about them. It's about freeing yourself from the chain that ties you to that pain. When you release them to God, you're not saying they were right. You're saying, I trust that God will deal with what I can't. Vengeance belongs to God. Justice belongs to God. Peace belongs to those who leave it in His hands. Letting go of bitterness is one of the most powerful ways of saying, God, you are my defender, not my anger. When you let God handle what you can't, you stop chasing people who are not meant for you. You stop begging for attention, validation, and acceptance from those who were never assigned to understand you. You stop explaining yourself to minds that cannot comprehend your calling. Because when God is guiding you, He will send the right people at the right time. You don't have to chase what's divine. You only have to stay aligned. The moment release who and what was never meant for you, the space they occupied becomes available for God's real blessing. There are times when you feel like you've lost everything. The door closed, the friendship ended, the opportunity vanished. But what if that closed door was God's way of redirecting you from disaster? What if that person's departure was protection, not rejection? What if that failure was a redirection towards something far greater? You may not understand it now, but the God who removes also replaces. He never takes without the intention to restore. You just have to trust His sequence. His timing might feel late to you, but it's perfect in His plan. When you hand over what you can't control, your soul finds rest. You stop trying to predict tomorrow because you know who holds tomorrow. You stop fearing the unknown because you know that nothing is unknown to God. You stop panicking over outcomes because you know that His will cannot be defeated by your worry. That's the secret of peace. Not in getting everything you want, but in knowing that God is guiding everything you need. Faith is not just believing that God can. It's resting in the truth that God will, in His time, in His way. When your faith matures, your language changes. You stop saying, I hope it works out. And you start saying, it's already handled. You stop saying, I'm scared of what's coming. And you start saying, whatever comes, God is with me. That is the language of power. That is the heart of true surrender. It's not about escaping the storm. It's about knowing who controls the sea. There are moments when God will allow you to feel powerless so that you finally realize where true power comes from. You've tried your plans, your wisdom, your timing, and they failed. Not because you're weak, but because God wants to show you that human control has limits, but divine control has none. When you are at your lowest, that's when His strength rises. When you stop trying to force doors open, He starts opening the ones that truly belong to you. Sometimes He lets certain things collapse so that He can rebuild them on a stronger foundation, His foundation. You might not see it yet, but every unanswered prayer is a form of divine protection. Every delay is divine direction. Every loss hides a lesson. When you let God handle what you can't, you become untouchable to despair because you understand that even pain is part of His plan. You no longer ask, why me? You begin to say, thank you, God, for trusting me with this test. Because every test reveals a testimony. And every burden carries the seed of a blessing. Letting God handle what you can't doesn't mean you stop working. It means you stop worrying. You still do your part, but you do it from a place of peace, not panic. You put in the effort, but you don't obsess over the result. You understand that the results are not your responsibility. Faithfulness is. You keep walking, you keep believing, you keep praying, but you stop trying to manipulate the outcome. Because the moment you surrender control, you gain clarity. The truth is, God doesn't need your control. He needs your cooperation. He's not asking you to make it happen. He's asking you to trust that He already has. When you finally understand this, your heart becomes calm even in chaos. You start to see beauty in what once broke you. You start to see peace in what once confused you. You start to see purpose in what once pained you. That is what it means to truly let God handle what you can't. There is nothing that escapes His vision. Nothing you've lost that He cannot replace. Nothing broken that He cannot mend. Nothing delayed that He cannot redeem. Every season has meaning, even the painful ones. The seed buried in darkness doesn't realize it's growing until it breaks the soil. And so are you. You think you're buried, but God says you're being planted. You think it's over, but God says it's only beginning. You think you've lost control, but God says you were never meant to control it in the first place. You must learn to walk in quiet confidence. The kind of confidence that doesn't come from knowing how, but from knowing who. The kind that doesn't depend on plans, but on faith. The kind that says, even when I can't see the way, I know God is making one. Because the path of faith is not straight. It's sacred. It bends and curves according to what you need to learn, not just where you need to go. And when you truly let God handle what you can't, something miraculous happens inside you. Your heart begins to heal. You stop chasing outcomes that were never promised to you. You stop fearing things that were never meant to destroy you. You stop begging for what was never designed to stay. You begin to see that peace is not found in controlling life. Peace is found in trusting the one who controls life. When you let God handle it, the noise inside your mind grows quiet. The storm may still rage around you, but inside you are still, because you know that God is still God. The world teaches you to fight harder, push harder, control more. But God whispers, be still. Not because you're weak, but because strength is born in stillness. The ocean does not create its waves. It receives them from the moon's pool. And in the same way, your spirit must stop forcing and start receiving. Let the rhythm of divine timing move you. Stop worrying about whether you're behind or ahead. God's plan doesn't run on human clocks. What seems like a delay is often His way of making sure the path is safe before you arrive. Sometimes God withholds things you desperately want, not to punish you, but to protect you. You think He's saying no, but He's really saying, not yet. You think He's closing the door, but He's really preparing you for the one that leads to destiny. You see, what you call disappointment, God calls direction. What you call rejection, God calls redirection. No? That broke your heart was necessary to push you toward a greater? Yes. So stop trying to reopen what God has already shut. When you let go of what's behind, your hands are finally free to receive what's ahead. And let me tell you, God doesn't need your help to bless you. He doesn't need your strategies or your anxiety. He needs your faith. He needs your surrender. Because faith is not about manipulating outcomes, it's about trusting divine outcomes. When you stop trying to control how things unfold, you make room for God to surprise you with something better than you planned. Sometimes, what you thought was the end is actually the doorway into a higher chapter. And sometimes, what looks like chaos is God's construction site. He's building something powerful, but from the inside out. When you truly give things to God, you stop panicking about tomorrow. You start living in gratitude today. Gratitude is the sign of a surrendered soul. It says, even if I don't have everything I want, I trust that I have everything I need right now. Gratitude shifts your focus from what's missing to what's working. And when you thank God in the middle of uncertainty, it shows heaven that your faith is not dependent on circumstances. That's when miracles happen, because gratitude opens doors that worry can't. Many people say they trust God, but their hearts are still restless. They pray, but they still panic. They ask, but they still doubt. True faith is when you say, God, even if I don't see the way, I know you are making one. Faith is not a feeling, it's a decision. You decide to trust even when everything in your flesh wants to control. You decide to stay calm even when the future is unclear. You decide to believe that God's silence is not absence, it's preparation. Because when God is silent, He is shaping something sacred. Silence is not emptiness, it's construction. Letting God handle what you can't means learning to rest. Rest is an act of faith. It's saying, I don't have to keep fighting for what's already in God's hands. You can't hear divine whispers when you're shouting over your own fears. You can't see divine direction when you're blinded by anxiety. Rest is where God speaks the loudest. When you slow down, you allow your spirit to catch up with His plan. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. Not because you're lazy, but because you trust the one who never sleeps. And when you let God handle what you can't, you start to see your past differently. The things that once broke you now make sense. You begin to realize that every betrayal was protection, every heartbreak was redirection, and every delay was preparation. The moments you thought would destroy you actually built the strength you carry today. God never wastes pain. He transforms it. He turns wounds into wisdom and scars into strength. So instead of asking, why did it happen? Start saying, thank you, God, for showing me I could survive it. That shift in mindset moves you from victim to victor. When you finally let God handle what you can't, you begin to walk with unshakable peace. You stop rushing, stop explaining, stop apologizing for where you are. You realize that divine timing is never late and divine order never fails. You understand that what is meant for you will not pass you by, and what passes you by was never meant to stay. You start to breathe again, not because life got easier, but because you stop trying to be your own savior. There's a freedom that comes when you stop trying to control how others see you. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth when you know that your value was set by the one who made you. The opinions of others lose power over a heart that trusts God. Because when God approves, no disapproval can stop you. When God opens a door, no voice can close it. When God says, it's time, no delay can hinder it. So stop fighting for acceptance. You already have divine validation. Some of you have been praying for years, waiting for a change, and you feel forgotten. You wonder if God even hears you. Let me remind you, the silence of God is never the absence of God. He is not ignoring you. He is orchestrating the details. He is aligning circumstances, moving hearts, preparing timing. When you think nothing is happening, heaven is working over time. The blessing that seems delayed is often delayed only because it's still being perfected. When it comes, it will come complete, needing no fixing, no explanation, no repair. God's plans are not fragile. They do not depend on your perfection. They are sustained by His power. So even if you've made mistakes, even if you've stumbled, even if you've lost your way, He can still handle it. Nothing you've done can undo what He has decreed. You can't ruin what God has redeemed. All He asks is that you surrender your guilt, your shame, your regret, and trust that He still knows how to turn your mess into a message. Letting go means saying, God, I can't fix it, but I know you can. And remember this, when you release control, you don't lose power. You gain peace. Because power without peace destroys you, but peace with power strengthens you. The moment you stop trying to control life, you begin to enjoy it. The moment you stop questioning God's plan, you begin to see His beauty in everything. The sunrise feels softer, the air feels lighter, and even in pain, you sense purpose. That's the power of surrender. It transforms how you experience life itself. You cannot carry both faith and fear at the same time. One must live for the other to live. So choose faith. Choose trust. Choose surrender. Tell yourself, I will not worry about what I can't control because I know who controls it. The same God who brought light out of darkness can bring peace out of chaos. The same God who gave breath to dust can breathe hope into your situation. You may not see the evidence, but that's what makes it faith. Faith is seeing with your spirit what your eyes cannot yet behold. There is a quiet revolution that happens in your life when you finally let God handle what you can't. You stop rushing ahead and you start walking with rhythm. You stop talking out of fear and you start speaking out of wisdom. You stop asking, what if it doesn't work? And you start saying, even if it doesn't go my way, I'm still safe in God's plan. You stop trying to prove your worth because you understand that you were already chosen long before you tried to earn it. Letting God handle what you can't also means releasing the illusion of control over the future. You don't have to know how it will happen. You just have to know who's guiding it. You don't have to plan every step. You just have to take the next one in faith. The path will reveal itself as you walk it. That's how divine guidance works. It's revealed progressively, not all at once. God gives you light for the next step, not the whole staircase. Because if He showed you everything at once, you'd either rush ahead or run away. But when you trust Him one step at a time, you walk not by sight, but by surrender. My friend, don't let your heart be weighed down by what you can't fix. You've worried long enough. You've cried long enough. You've tried long enough. It's time to release it. Release the fear of failure. Release the pain of the past. Release the weight of the future. Let God handle it. Life was never meant to be a battle of control. It was meant to be a journey of trust. The more you trust, the lighter you walk. The lighter you walk, the farther you go. Because in the end, faith is not about understanding every detail. It's about knowing who holds every detail. It's not about predicting the outcome. It's about trusting the orchestrator. It's not about holding everything together. It's about knowing that the one who holds the universe is holding you too. You can rest now. You can breathe now. God is already handling what you can't. He's handling the people who wronged you. He's handling the doors that closed. He's handling the dreams that faded. He's handling the tears you never spoke of. He's handling the timing you don't understand. And when it's time, He will reveal what He's been preparing all along. You don't have to chase it, it will find you. Because what's divine will never miss its mark. So walk in peace, walk in confidence, walk knowing that every step you take in surrender moves you closer to the life God already prepared. You may not see it now, but one day you'll look back and say, if I hadn't let go, I would have missed this. What you once feared to release will become the very thing that freed you. Because that's how surrender works. It doesn't weaken you, it awakens you. So today, right now, let God handle what you can't. Leave it at His feet. Don't pick it back up. Don't overthink it. Don't argue with divine timing. Just trust that the same God who started your story already knows how to finish it beautifully. Let peace return to your spirit. Let faith rise again in your heart. Let surrender become your strength. For you were never meant to handle everything alone. You were meant to walk with God, trust God, and rest in God. And when you do, you'll discover that the weight you were carrying was never yours in the first place. It always belonged to Him. When the power of God descends upon a soul that believes, time itself bends to the will of the Almighty. There are moments in life when human medicine stops, when science is silent, when logic fails, and yet in those same moments, the hand of God moves faster than thought, faster than breath, faster than pain. There is a prayer that does not take days, months, or years to bring healing. It is the prayer that touches the throne of the eternal. It is the prayer that heals disease in seconds. My friend, when you stand in the presence of the living God with faith that cannot be shaken, you are standing before the creator of your very cells, the designer of your blood, the master of every nerve, bone, and heartbeat. The disease that frightens the body does not frighten God. The diagnosis that terrifies your mind does not trouble the one who made you from dust. There is nothing too hard for Him, nothing too advanced for His wisdom, nothing too incurable for His word. When God speaks, cells rearrange themselves. When God breathes, tumors dissolve. When God stretches forth His hand, diseases vanish like mist before the sunrise. Many people pray, but few pray with power. Many call upon God, but few touch Him with faith. A prayer that heals in seconds is not a long, eloquent prayer. It is not filled with complicated words or endless repetition. It is a prayer born from absolute trust. It is the cry of a heart that knows there is no other source but God. It is a moment when the human spirit and divine will meet, and heaven responds instantly. When the prayer of faith is released, something supernatural happens. The spirit of sickness loses authority. The weight of affliction breaks. The body that was once under oppression suddenly begins to realign itself with divine order. You must understand this. Disease is not greater than God's design. It may dwell in the flesh, but it cannot override divine command. God's voice created life. Therefore, His voice can restore it in a second. What took years to damage can be undone in moments when faith meets power. There are people who think healing must take time. They believe that even God works slowly. But when faith is alive, time is irrelevant. A second in the presence of God is enough to reverse years of pain. A whisper from heaven can accomplish what medicine cannot. You are not waiting on God. God is waiting on faith. The moment your spirit aligns with His will, healing is no longer a process. It is an explosion of divine order manifesting in your body. You must stop approaching God as if He were limited. You must stop praying as though you are uncertain. Doubt is the greatest delay in the spirit realm. Fear is the greatest disease of all. The prayer that heals disease in seconds is not born in fear. It is born in authority. When you know who God is, and when you know who you are in Him, you do not beg for healing. You command alignment according to divine will. You do not cry in despair. You declare in power. You do not ask if. You proclaim because God lives, you live. Because God speaks, sickness must obey. The world will tell you to depend on systems, on procedures, on the slow process of recovery. But the Word of God says that He sends His word and heals them. Do you know what that means? It means healing is not a distant future. It is a word away. When God releases His word, it becomes reality. When you align your prayer with that word, disease has no choice but to submit. It cannot resist divine authority. It cannot argue with divine power. The cells in your body are not loyal to sickness. They are loyal to the Creator. When you pray, do not speak from the place of weakness. Speak from the place of divine strength. The person who prays with fear prays from the ground. But the one who prays with faith prays from the throne. You are not speaking to God as a beggar. You are communing with Him as His creation. You are returning to the source of all healing. There is no wound He cannot close. There is no organ He cannot recreate. There is no pain He cannot erase. Sometimes healing does not come because people pray with divided hearts. One part believes, another doubts. One part speaks faith, another fears the outcome. But healing in seconds comes when the heart is fully united with God's will. When your spirit, your words, and your faith all agree that God is able, heaven releases power that the human body cannot resist. The command is simple: be whole. And the moment that command is uttered in faith, wholeness begins its work instantly. When a person learns to pray with complete surrender, the body becomes a vessel of divine energy. Prayer is not just words, it is transmission. When you pray with faith, you open the channel for divine current to flow through you. God's energy, God's life. God's light begins to move through your veins. Your immune system awakens. Your cells respond. Your blood begins to vibrate with the rhythm of divine life. Healing is not magic. It is divine reality manifesting through prayer. Some of you have lived with disease for years. You have accepted it as part of your identity. You say, this is my condition, this is my fate, this is my cross. No. You were not designed to live in constant affliction. You were created in divine image, and that image carries the power of renewal. God does not design failure, nor does He delight in your suffering. Disease is a distortion, not a destiny. And when you stand in prayer with faith, you are not asking for something new. You are reclaiming what was originally yours, divine health. When you pray, visualize the healing power of God flowing through your body. See it as light, pure and unstoppable, washing every cell, cleansing every organ. Speak life over your flesh. Speak health into your blood. Speak vitality into your bones. The words you speak in faith are not empty. They are containers of divine energy. When you speak them under the authority of God, they carry creative power. The very air begins to shift. The unseen world responds to faith-filled sound. The prayer that heals in seconds is a command issued in alignment with divine order. Do not wait for a sign to believe. Believe, and the sign will follow. The moment you say, God, I trust you, something in the unseen realm begins to move. You may not feel it yet, but it has begun. You may not see it yet, but it has already taken place. Healing begins in the spirit before it is visible in the flesh. But when faith is complete, even the physical realm catches up quickly. What happens in the spirit can manifest in seconds in the body when the prayer is pure. Remember this, God is not moved by tears alone. He is moved by faith. Tears may touch the heart of heaven, but faith unlocks the hand of power. The one who prays with confidence shakes the invisible realm. Faith is not emotion. It is knowing. It is the quiet but unshakable certainty that what God has spoken is already done. When you pray from that place, your body becomes a field for divine manifestation. There was once a woman who prayed for healing for years. She visited many doctors, tried every treatment, but nothing changed. One day she stopped asking with fear and started declaring with faith. She said, God, you created me. You are my healer. I am not asking for you to heal me tomorrow. I receive it now. Within seconds, her body began to tremble, and the pain that had tormented her for years vanished. What happened? She stopped begging and started believing. That is the difference between waiting and receiving. God does not respond to hesitation. He responds to conviction. If you want a prayer that heals disease in seconds, you must stand before Him without double-mindedness. You must believe that healing is your divine inheritance. You must know that His power is greater than any report. Even if every doctor says, impossible, heaven does not recognize that word. There is no impossible in the language of God. The only limit is unbelief. Many people ask, why doesn't God heal everyone instantly? My friend, the power is constant, but faith is variable. God's power does not fluctuate, our trust does. The current of divine healing flows eternally, but your heart must plug into it. When you align your faith perfectly, healing flows instantly. It's not about God moving, it's about you connecting. When faith makes full contact with power, seconds are enough. If you want to pray with healing power, purify your heart from doubt. Let your faith become absolute. Remove every trace of fear. Do not pray while thinking about what could go wrong. Pray knowing what must go right. When your faith becomes total, God becomes immediate. The delay is not in heaven, the delay is in hesitation. Speak your healing as truth, not as wish. Claim it as reality, not as request. Speak with authority, and your body will obey. There are prayers that move mountains, but there are also prayers that move atoms. When faith is present, even the smallest molecule obeys divine instruction. If God can part seas and calm storms, can He not correct the chemistry of your body in a second? Can He not restore nerve endings, dissolve growths, balance hormones, or renew sight in an instant? The body was made by His word. It can be remade by His word again. Every breath you take is proof that divine energy is still sustaining you. You must realize this truth. God does not need time. Humans do. We measure healing in stages, but He measures it in obedience. If He says, "Be healed," the only response reality can give is, "Yes." The universe itself bends to the voice of its creator. When that voice is released through your prayer of faith, healing becomes inevitable. Even in the silence of your room, when you kneel and whisper your pain to God, He listens. But more than listening, He acts. The invisible hands of divine mercy reach into the fabric of your being. The same hand that shaped galaxies is shaping your recovery. Do not underestimate the moment of prayer. It is not small. It is the meeting place of heaven and earth. One prayer spoken with faith can shift your destiny forever. When your faith grows to this level, you stop chasing miracles, and miracles start chasing you. Healing becomes natural, not exceptional. It becomes your reality, not your request. The same God who formed the stars also designed your DNA. The moment you speak His word in faith, creation responds. The law of divine restoration activates. This is not imagination. It is spiritual science, divine law at work. The moment you truly believe, the healing becomes instantaneous. When you pray, say, "God, I thank you that your power is flowing through me now. I thank you that disease is dissolving, pain is leaving, energy is returning. I thank you that I am healed now." Speak it until your spirit believes it. Speak it until your cells respond. Speak it until your faith becomes sight. The more you declare divine truth, the less room fear has to live. The more you magnify God's power, the smaller your disease becomes. Some of you will experience it suddenly. You will feel warmth or peace or energy. Some of you will sense nothing, and yet the healing will have already begun. Do not rely on feelings, rely on truth. Healing does not always announce itself with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives like a gentle whisper. But when faith is present, it is done whether you feel it or not. Never forget the power of prayer is not in how long you pray, but how deeply you believe. A single second of pure faith is more powerful than 1,000 hours of doubt. When the heart and word align perfectly with God, even a whisper can shake the heavens. Pray not with fear, but with fire. Pray not as a request, but as a release. When you open your mouth in faith, divine life flows through you like lightning through a conductor. And when you are healed, testify. Declare what God has done. For every healing that occurs in seconds is a testimony that will awaken faith in others. Your miracle becomes the seed for someone else's breakthrough. Healing is not only for your body, it is for your purpose. God restores you so you can restore others. He heals you so you can become a living witness of His eternal power. When a person truly learns how to pray, they step into the timeless dimension of God's power. In that realm, seconds become sacred, and what once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. There is a sacred secret hidden within every genuine prayer. It is not in the words you say, but in the power that carries those words. You see, when the heart and the tongue become one in faith, the vibration of your prayer pierces through the unseen barriers of doubt and calls down divine intervention. It is not the noise that moves God. It is the depth of trust behind it. Every disease has a sound. Every affliction has a frequency. But the voice of faith overrides them all. When you begin to speak with the authority that comes from total surrender, your words begin to echo with divine energy. You are no longer speaking as a fearful human being. You are speaking as a vessel through which God's power flows. The disease may scream in the body, but your faith speaks louder in the spirit. That is why when a person prays from that divine alignment, healing can come instantly, because the voice that speaks faith is not your voice. It becomes God's voice through you. The prayer that heals in seconds does not start in the mouth. It begins in the heart. It is the inner assurance that God is not just listening, He is acting. When your inner conviction becomes stronger than your outer condition, the miracle begins. Some people speak words of faith, but think thoughts of fear, and that inner contradiction blocks the flow of divine power. You must let your mind agree with your mouth and your heart agree with both. When all three are united, God's power flows without resistance. It is then that a tumor disappears, a chronic pain ceases, a body begins to vibrate with divine life. There are people who pray as if they are trying to convince God to care. But you do not need to convince God to love you. He already does. You do not need to persuade Him to heal you. He already wills it. The moment your faith aligns with His will, it happens. God's nature is not hesitation, it is abundance. He is not withholding healing to test your endurance. He is waiting for you to trust Him completely. Faith is the open door through which divine power enters. The moment that door is opened wide, healing rushes in like light flooding a dark room. Think of the sun. It shines continually, giving warmth and light to everything it touches. Yet, if you hide behind a wall, the light cannot reach you. The problem is not that the sun stopped shining. It is that something stands in the way. So it is with God's healing power. It is always shining, always available, always ready to flow. But fear, doubt, and unbelief build the walls that block it. The prayer that heals disease in seconds is the prayer that tears those walls down. It is when you finally say, God, I believe you. I trust your power completely. There is nothing standing between you and me. In that moment, the wall collapses and light floods the soul. and the body follows. There is a language that only faith can speak. It does not use words of worry, but words of victory. When faith speaks, it says, I am healed, even when pain still lingers. It says, God is working, even when the evidence has not yet appeared. It says, the power of God flows through me now, even when weakness is visible. Because faith is not limited by sight, faith creates sight. The body eventually manifests what the spirit already knows. The unseen becomes seen because God honors the word spoken in trust. Sometimes people say, I have prayed many times, but nothing happened. The question is not whether you prayed, it is whether you believed. Because when true faith is ignited, even once, that single spark can set the heavens in motion. God is not counting how many times you repeat your request. He is waiting for the one moment when your heart truly lets go of fear, that moment of total release. When the soul says, God, it is in your hands and I am free from worry. That is when the miracle begins. It is not striving that moves God, it is surrender. There is power in surrender that many do not understand. To surrender does not mean to give up. It means to align. It means to say, God, you are the ultimate authority over my body, my mind, and my destiny. It means to hand over every anxious thought and every ounce of self-effort. And when you do that, divine energy begins to move unhindered. Because healing is not you trying to convince God. It is God convincing your body to return to its original state of perfection. The human body was designed to respond to divine order. That is why when you pray with faith, your body reacts even before your mind can comprehend it. Your cells listen, your blood obeys, your heartbeat synchronizes with the rhythm of divine will. You become a living testimony of God's creative power in motion. This is why people have experienced instant healing. Not because God suddenly decided to act, but because their faith finally allowed His power to be felt. The power that heals is not far from you, it is within you. The very breath you take carries the energy of divine life. Every inhale is proof that God has not left you. Every heartbeat declares that His Spirit is still sustaining you. When you acknowledge the presence, your prayer shifts from begging to believing. You are no longer asking for God to come. You are awakening to the truth that He already dwells within you. Healing then becomes not a future event, but a present reality. In moments of deep faith, people have felt warmth spread through their body. Others have felt peace wash over their mind. Others still have felt nothing. And yet they were healed. Because the presence of God does not always announce itself with sensations. Sometimes it moves silently, invisibly, yet powerfully. What matters is not what you feel, but what you know. When you know that God's power is at work in you, no evidence of sickness can stand for long. Let me tell you something that will transform the way you pray. Stop fighting the disease and start affirming the divine. When you fight the disease, you are still focusing on the problem. But when you affirm the divine, you are aligning with the solution. Say not, I am sick, but God's life is working in me. Say not, I am in pain, but God's power is restoring me. Speak not from the position of suffering, but from the position of divine strength. The prayer that heals in seconds is not a prayer of resistance. It is a prayer of realization. You are not asking for something to happen. You are declaring what already exists in divine truth. The greatest transformations occur not when we cry harder, but when we believe deeper. There are tears that touch heaven, but there are also tears that drown faith. Cry, but let your tears water the soil of trust, not the roots of despair. Let every tear you shed say, God, I know you are faithful. Because faith and emotion are not enemies. Faith gives emotion direction. And when faith and feeling move together in trust, the power of God responds instantly. Some of you have carried sickness for so long that you have begun to identify with it. You call it my disease, my condition, my problem. But those words tie your spirit to your pain. The first healing begins when you change your language. Stop calling it yours. It does not belong to you. You are not the sickness. You are the soul that God breathed life into. You are not what afflicts you. You are what God declares you to be. And when you begin to speak from that identity, your body begins to obey that truth. The prayer that heals in seconds is not a performance. It is an awakening. It is the moment when you realize that God's power has always been available, that His healing light has always surrounded you, and that your belief opens the gate. It is not about the length of your prayer. It is about the strength of your trust. The deeper your trust, the faster the manifestation. Even when the world around you doubts, even when others question your faith, stand firm. Do not let the opinions of men weaken your conviction. People will tell you healing takes time, but God exists beyond time. People will tell you that recovery is gradual, but God operates in the eternal now. Faith does not wait, it receives. Faith does not hope that something will happen. It knows that something already has. The moment you believe, the power begins to move. And when the healing comes, give thanks. Gratitude seals the miracle. Gratitude is the final act of faith. It tells God, I recognize what you have done. Even before you see the change, thank Him. Even before the pain leaves, thank Him. Gratitude pulls your heart into alignment with divine flow. The thankful soul becomes a magnet for divine favor. When you thank God in advance, you are declaring that you already trust His outcome. And that declaration activates more power. Let your prayer life become an atmosphere of gratitude and faith. When you pray, do not plead with desperation. Speak with confidence. Do not focus on the sickness, focus on the source. Lift your heart above the circumstance and let your words become pure light. Speak from the center of your being. God, you are my healer. Your power flows through me. My body is whole because you have willed it so. Speak it not as a wish, but as a declaration of divine truth. Do not underestimate the quiet power of a few seconds of pure faith. One breath filled with divine awareness can do what a lifetime of worry cannot. One whisper of total surrender can open the gates of heaven. In that sacred moment, when your soul fully trusts, time loses its meaning. Healing happens because the eternal has entered the temporary. God's power does not need duration, it needs invitation. When a human being prays with total confidence in God, the unseen realm begins to vibrate with divine activity. Prayer is not just sound, it is energy, it is movement, it is life flowing from eternity into time. Every word spoken in faith becomes a vessel that carries the creative force of God. When your heart is pure, your faith unwavering, and your voice steady in conviction, you release divine fire into your body, into your home, into your world. That is why some prayers heal not in months or days, but in seconds. Because in those seconds, the human spirit becomes one with the will of God. The power that heals is not in human strength, it is in divine connection. Disease thrives where there is separation from God, but healing rushes in where there is unity. The moment you return your focus entirely to God, without distraction, without fear, without argument, your body aligns with its original blueprint. You were not created for decay. You were created for divine vitality. Every cell in your being was designed to obey the law of divine life. When you pray in perfect faith, that law activates again, and the disorder must disappear. It cannot stay where divine order reigns. There is a reason the heart of prayer is stillness. The moment you still your mind, the presence of God becomes visible to your spirit. In that sacred stillness, healing is not requested, it is revealed. The disease that once looked like a mountain becomes nothing more than a shadow before the light of divine awareness. That is the prayer that heals in seconds, the prayer of pure awareness that God is all-powerful, all-present, and absolutely good. When you rest in that truth, divine energy floods through your being, and wholeness manifests without struggle. Do not measure your healing by symptoms, measure it by faith. Many stop praying because they look for signs in the flesh before believing in the spirit. But faith reverses that order. It believes first and sees later. You must understand that the spiritual world governs the physical world. The body is a servant to the spirit. When the spirit says, I am healed, the body eventually conforms. The speed of that manifestation depends on the strength of your faith. And when your faith is absolute, when no thought of doubt lingers, then the change happens instantly. Some wonder why certain prayers feel unanswered. It is not because God withholds, it is because fear blocks. Fear is the shadow that interrupts divine flow. When fear speaks, faith becomes silent. But when faith speaks, fear dissolves. That is why you must guard your inner dialogue. You cannot speak faith for 5 minutes and think fear for the rest of the day. Healing flows where the mind is stable, where the thoughts continually affirm divine truth. You must build your mental environment around belief, because your body listens to your thoughts. It mirrors the state of your faith. There is no disease too strong for God's power. There is no pain too old for His touch. There is no diagnosis too dark for His light. Even when the world calls it incurable, heaven calls it temporary. God can rewrite what science cannot. He can reverse what time has done. He can renew what was thought dead. The only requirement is belief. If you will open your heart in complete trust, you will find that healing does not need to be earned. It only needs to be received. Prayer is not about convincing God to move. It is about convincing yourself that He already has. It is about lifting your consciousness to match His reality. The moment you stop asking from lack and start affirming from abundance, your prayer gains authority. God does not respond to uncertainty. He responds to conviction. The prayer of conviction carries the fragrance of trust. It declares healing as truth, not as hope. When that conviction rises, heaven has no choice but to agree, for truth cannot deny itself. You must understand that divine healing is not limited to physical change. It is a total restoration of being. When you pray with deep faith, God does not only touch your body, He touches your soul, your mind, your emotions, your memories. The energy of divine wholeness moves through layers unseen, cleansing away bitterness, guilt, and fear. Because disease often begins in the heart before it reaches the body. Anger can poison the blood, worry can weaken the immune system, and grief can shut down vitality. That is why true healing starts within. When your heart becomes light, your body follows. When you stand before God in prayer, do not come with a heavy spirit. Come with expectation. Come with joy. Come as one who already knows the outcome. Even before the evidence appears, celebrate the reality of God's power. There is a sound of victory in the language of gratitude. When you thank God before the healing appears, you declare your faith in the invisible. And when heaven hears that sound, it releases the power that makes the invisible visible. Gratitude is faith made audible. It is the music of divine trust. And so let every breath you take remind you God is here. Every heartbeat declares His power sustains you. Every sunrise whispers His mercy renews you. Live in that awareness and sickness will fear you. Because disease cannot dwell in a heart that burns with divine faith. Pain cannot thrive in a mind filled with divine peace. Weakness cannot remain in a soul that walks in divine strength. Lift your voice, not in begging, but in certainty. Say, God, I trust you. I rest in your power. I receive what you have already provided. My body is healed. My mind is restored. My spirit is renewed. Speak it with conviction. Speak it until your soul trembles with assurance. Speak it until you feel the vibration of heaven move through you. That is the prayer that heals in seconds. The prayer that springs from unwavering faith and fearless surrender. Because the truth is this: God is not slow. His power is not delayed. It is humanity that hesitates. The moment faith becomes complete, the moment fear vanishes, the moment surrender is total, healing becomes immediate. It does not need to build, it simply appears. For where divine will meet human faith, seconds are enough. And in that sacred meeting, the impossible becomes inevitable, and the broken becomes whole again.